For better or worse, it's not warm enough to be at the beach yet, but it's warm enough to walk to the library, find a parking place. The snow is melting. To add to what Mike was saying, there are some brochures here about the Friends of the Library, so that you gave those dates, but they're right here. Please take one. We are, however, not going to be murdering anybody this afternoon. So that's a little bit away from this spring theme of murder and mayhem. Also, Mike mentioned that if you had any digital devices on you, to turn them off. I had to laugh because there's probably a lot of people in this room that have digital devices. For example, right here, I don't know if I want to touch it or not, but this is my friend's device, and it's FM, I think. And so these are her ears, and she's listening to this conversation, my talk, right in her hearing aids. So if anybody has a Phonak or a talker and you want to bring it up here, please do. I apologize that we don't have more technology available. For example, we don't have CART, and we'll talk about that. But please let me know if you can hear me okay, because I can go back to a microphone. I don't prefer to. I like to move around. But please let me know if I'm talking too fast or if you need me to talk louder. We'll talk about loudness as well. Okay? All right, so more about myself. Hearing aids since age 30, and it was really my family saying, you can't hear anything. But it was also the knowledge that my family has a history of hearing loss. And this picture over here is my grandfather in the 30s and 40s. And he was a university dean of men at Rutgers University, doing a lot of talking, socializing, and so forth. And he's wearing, I don't know if you can see, but he's wearing an early hearing aid, huge device, wearing a body box on his person. Over the years, I have improved my own technology, but I felt very alone. I didn't know anybody who really had a hearing loss like me. I didn't know where to get support. I literally Googled, new verb, right? Googled hearing loss support, and I found the Hearing Loss Association of America, which I'll talk a little bit about, and the local chapter, Hearing Loss of America, Central Massachusetts. And we meet every month in Northborough. We try to have monthly programs, and in fact, I'll be talking about a program that's going to be happening at the end of this month. My goals: to teach about advocacy for hearing loss, to learn about technologies that assist people, and basically get the word out. And again, if you have any questions while I proceed, just raise your hand or scream. Do you or a loved one have a hearing loss? Some of you probably know you do. Some of you hope you don't. And a lot of you may have somebody in your family that has a hearing loss. So the questions are, do you struggle hearing over the telephone? Do you struggle when two or more people are talking? Is the television volume never quite right? Oh, I'm standing in the... See if I can get my mouse going over here. Are you asking people to repeat themselves? And do you guess what people are saying? I am so guilty of that. It's a comedy routine with my kids, because they'll ask me a question like, what time is dinner? And I will say, it's the color red. And they'll just laugh and laugh because I have no idea what they ask, but I'm guessing what they say. And it's very funny. Ha, 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 ha. I can't stand it. If you're experiencing any of those, or two or more, you probably have a hearing loss. Now, even if you don't have a hearing loss, I already mentioned this, you may be caring for somebody who has one, somebody in your family has a hearing loss, and it can cause tremendous pressure on relationships. Another thing also is that their odds are good that as we age, you will acquire a hearing loss, even if it's modest. Somebody you know will acquire a hearing loss. Sometimes in the hearing loss world, there's a denial that, oh, it has nothing to do with age. But it does. It does. People get older, there's more and more need for assistive technology. What are the numbers? The most common number I hear is 17% of Americans right now have a hearing loss. I've heard upwards of 50 million. So it's a moving target for sure. 25 million Americans experience tinnitus. Forever, I've called it tinnitus, but I think it's tinnitus. And that is the ringing in the ears. And a lot of times it's acquired through industrial jobs, work. Sometimes it's psychological. I'm not going to talk a lot about that. It's more of a mystery than hearing loss, but it's an actual reality, and audiologists treat it just as well as they treat hearing loss. There's cochlear implants, present that as well. That's very, very high-tech medical procedure and device. Worldwide, 188, 200,000 people have them. United States, 41,000, give or take, Americans. Big in children these days. It's becoming huge with children when the early diagnostics of hearing loss in kids. This one freaks me out. 4,000 new cases of sudden deafness in the United States. To me, that's wild. People wake up and they can't hear. Ugh. And why? Viruses, genetic problems with maybe some degradation in the ear and so forth, but it's just very scary. 2 or 3 of every 1,000 children in the United States are born with deaf or hard of hearing. And actually, 1 out of 5, they say, that's an estimate of people who could benefit from a hearing aid. Only 1 out of 5 have them, which means 80% of the people that could use one don't. Any questions? What is hearing? I'm not an audiologist, but basically you got this in middle school biology. The outer ear captures the waves. The inner ear, the middle ear brings it through the eardrum, and the inner ear is beautiful. It has the cochlea, which is the circular sinusoidal organ in the body. It has tiny little hairs, there's water, there's the bones, all those parts that you learned. And that inner ear is creating the electronic signal to your brain. Okay? So how does the wave of sound become a dit-dit-dit-dit-dit electronic pulse for your brain? It all happens in the ear. And it's really small. And you have 2 of them. So they're right there. And so when it works, it's huge. And it's beautiful. Imagine, I can't believe that organs in your body can do this. The 2 major components, and I'm going to talk about these more than other aspects, is amplitude of sound waves, and the frequency. And amplitude is size and how loud a sound is. The smallest is a whisper, right? The smallest is a whisper, the rustling of leaves. And the loudest, we all know, jet planes, fire alarms, fire trucks, jackhammers. The frequency is how frequently the wave moves. So if it hardly moves, it's really spread out, it's going to be a low, low, low sound. And if it goes fast, it's going to be very, very high, high-pitched sound. And these have huge waves. We can't hear all of them out there. Actually, I've heard that the human ear doesn't hear most sounds that are actually still out there, but I don't know about that. But there's a lot going on. When you experience hearing loss, it can be that your ear cannot get those waves. It can be the cilia, the hairs on that inside ear, and the water that's in there, and the bones, and its delivery of electronic pulses to the brain. Or it can be the brain itself. What's it called? The nerves in your brain. Usually it's a combination of both, or all of both. It breaks down the sound. So with hearing loss, what things happen? Pitches, or the frequencies, cannot be heard. So you're hearing, for instance, my hearing, I can hear very, very low sounds. I can hear very, very high sounds. But I can't hear the frequencies. I have trouble with the frequencies in the middle. You cannot suppress sounds. So if your brain is concentrating on the person sitting across from you in a restaurant, your brain will filter out the background noise. But with hearing loss, that doesn't happen. So you have a super hard problem with listening to the person with the background noise. You lose direction of sound. I'm just learning about this, but I knew it all the time, because if I'm driving and I hear a siren, I get really concerned because I don't know which direction to look. I have no idea where that sound is coming from. I don't know if I should pull this way or that way, what to do. So I'm all over the place. Tinnitus, we talked about, that's a hearing loss because it's a destruction, it's an inability to hear things, and you're hearing things that aren't there. It affects family life, workplace, and relationships. Now, everybody's trying to amplify the sound. I'm trying to do that now. But amplification sometimes does not work because pitches or tones are missing. So if somebody was reading to me this sentence, I wouldn't know what they were saying. And I'd say, could you please repeat yourself? And they do. And I still don't know what they're saying. And guess what? They'll say it louder. And I still don't know what they're saying. Has anybody experienced that? It's a tough one. And they don't get it. They get very angry. I read recently as a celebrity said that hearing loss is a disability where people actually get mad at you because you're disabled. You know, if somebody's blind, if they can't walk, you don't really get angry at them. But I've had people, you know, like, what are you, deaf? And it's like, yeah. Okay, so even with amplification, meaning is missing. Now, I had to throw this in, see if it's going to work. I don't know if this is going to happen. Let's see. Does anybody remember this?
Yes.
Oh, it didn't work.
Oh.
Who remembers that? Not only do they get angry, but they make fun of you, right? It's like, oh, okay. So shouting doesn't help, and you can see what this sentence is now, hopefully, and that the idea is, what are the sounds that are missing? What can your ear interpret and what can it not interpret? And there's a lovely day in the park like we have one today. One way that your ears and your brain works, and when I can try to guess what somebody is saying, is I have pre-existing knowledge of what somebody might be saying to me. So if they say, hello, how are you? I'm going to say I'm fine, even though I might not have heard all those words. So eyes do that. So this is a way for people who don't understand hearing loss. Your eyes might be able to pick up something in that picture. Does anybody see anything in that picture?
A dog.
A dog. Anybody see the dog? What kind of dog? Dalmatian. Everybody see the Dalmatian? It's very hard to see, but if you have a knowledge of what might be there, your mind starts putting together the pieces. And then, I actually didn't see it, but I've been told that there's a tree right there, okay? And there's a bit of a road or something. So that's what the ear and your brain is trying to do. It's trying very hard to receive those signals, even when it's incapable of receiving some of them. Okay. How do you measure hearing and hearing loss? If you've had your ears checked, you've had an audiogram, or hopefully you've had an audiogram done. And there's a lot of information on them. What happens is loudness is in decibels. So it's an upside down chart. So the smaller the decibels, they're way up on top. And the larger decibels are down here. So you have your trucks and your lawnmowers and the dog barking. This is going to be just a quiet, quiet, quiet sound. And then from left to right are the hertz, or the frequencies. So here are the low frequencies. And then as you move farther, you get higher, higher, higher frequencies. So a bird chirping is going to be a very high frequency. A lawnmower is going to be a low frequency, even though it might have a high amplitude. So the low, low, low sounds are here, and the high, high sounds are over here. And what the audiogram is going to show you is how loud something has to be in order for your ear and your brain to hear it, to receive that signal. So if you cannot hear, say, the piano playing, although piano has many, many frequencies on it, so that's probably not a good example. But a baby crying, if you can't hear this frequency, you have to have it louder, which is going down. So the implication is, as it comes down, your hearing is worse because it needs more volume. So if you had a normal curve of hearing, most hearing is in this, I think it's called the banana of hearing or something like that. Speech banana, okay? Because this is where all of the vowels are, and the letters, consonants and so forth. Some people are very, very good at describing voice and how your mouth makes sounds. I can't describe that right now. So the speech banana works very well for me in understanding where sound is on this chart. My hearing dips down just like this. I can hear very, very well on the ends, but I can't hear in the middle. And everybody will have a different pattern. Some people who are profoundly deaf will have a line that goes right down here. I can think of some people that have that. Okay? So here you have normal hearing is up on top, and then mild, moderate. I'm in this category. and then there's severe and profound. Does that make sense to everybody? If you have an audiogram at home, pull it out and ask your audiologist about it, ask your doctor about it, ask your friends about it. It's a good set of information. So what do you do with that knowledge? What happens is the devices, hearing aids, cochlear implants, will gain sound. But where is it going to gain it? If this is my hearing, okay, goes downhill, ski slope, I'm okay up here. I'm not so bad. I don't want too much gain over here. But here I need extra work. The idea is you want to raise the hearing, the sound, so that you're as much as possible achieving hearing in this level right here. And that's where the high technology of it comes in, that the digitalization, the little computer that sits in there can read the frequencies and adjust accordingly. And a good hearing aid with a good audiologist will achieve that goal as best they possibly can. Okay? Part of this also is reducing background noise, because if background noise is a lower frequency, you don't want to raise background noise, you want to suppress background noise. Big goal. Okay, any questions so far? Does it make sense? Can you hear me? Okay. What helps in the situation? I've put these in some categories. It may not be the best way to organize the information, but it's working for me right now. One is a very big word, audiological rehabilitation, which means get your ears checked, okay? Have yourself evaluated. There's different parts of it. To have assessed, evaluated, same thing. And then there's also treatment, okay? So the treatment isn't, here's your hearing aid, see you later. The treatment is, let's see if this works. Let's reassess. Let's evaluate how the technology is working for you. It's a project. It's not just a go, get something and leave. It's really a project. Behavioral changes in how you interact with people in all aspects of your life, and actually educating them on how they can interact with you. I'll go into these a little bit more finely. And then the big one, I think, personal hearing assistive technology and the different kinds that are available. Hearing aids are the most obvious. Cochlear implants, same family. And then the different technologies of transmitting, we'll talk about those. Bluetooth, FM systems, which is like radio, infrared, captioning, and then personal safety devices, I call them, and that's real important because a lot of times we receive signals. The important signals we receive are because of safety. Again, audiological rehabilitation means get tested. How do you find a good audiologist? It's a $6,400 question, probably. I have a handout here, and everybody can help themselves. But one of these is, oh, I can't find it. Purchasing a hearing aid. And it's a checklist. This is put out by the Hearing Loss Association of America, so I trust it. It's a checklist on the things that you should pay attention when you go through this decision process. Who do you go to is what everybody wants to know. And I have an audiologist in town. I can tell you her name off to the side. But I might change because I don't know if I'm happy with her. And I'm a little bit frightened to make the change because she's my friend. You know, I've known her for years. But I don't know if I'm getting the best. Ask questions, get referrals. There's a lot of people out there these days that are not just doctors referring to an audiologist. There's speech pathology practices. There's ear, eye, nose, throat folks. There's a lot of it's connected with speech, and there's a lot of practices where they have teamwork. And so you'll go to a location, and you may not see an audiologist right away. You might see speech pathology or that kind of thing. They'll evaluate you completely. There's many different approaches, and you're going to have to do your own research. There's hospital and university speech and hearing centers. Boston, Worcester have fantastic resources. And then I say Hearing Loss Association of America. They're not going to make referrals, but it's a great place to get information and a great place to learn about what's going on. Fess up. What is confess? I tell people I can't hear you. And a lot of times for me, it's not the volume and it's not even the frequencies, it's the speed with which people talk. The Valley Girl. I just can't, you must talk slowly. And they'll do it for a couple of sentences. But there's ways that you can instruct people how to speak to you and tell them why you're asking. Use technology, public and personal. We'll talk about that. Try to guess or not to guess. When do you give up guessing and just say, okay, or stop asking? And the big thing is to keep your sense of humor. It makes a big difference because it's frustrating. It's hard work trying to hear when you can't. And just enjoy it, admire the problem of that sentence, and keep a sense of humor. And other people will enjoy it as well. I mean, if you can laugh at the situation, then they can too. Here's a big one. Identify your sphere of capability. We'll have going away lunches at work, and we'll go to a restaurant. There'll be 18 people at a table. And I just have to know that I can't hear more than two people. And if I want to hear what's going on, I'm going to have to move. It's the way it is. Sometimes I take in notes and write notes, especially in a really loud environment, especially when I know the person understands. If I can't hear what they say and I really want to hear it, I'll hand them a piece of paper and pencil. So I always carry a memo pad with me. And people don't care. They'll write down what they want to say. They want to be heard. Okay, technology. I go right into hearing aids. That's what everybody thinks about with hearing assistive technology. Many, many different styles. Totally in the ear. People would say totally in the canal, TIC. Or behind the ear, or half shell. There's all sorts of styles. And basically, you're going to try to find a style that meets your needs and that you're comfortable with. If you're particularly vain, you could get a totally in the canal. I'm not vain, as you can tell. I have a behind the ear. I love it. I'm so in love with my hearing aids, I can't tell you. But somebody else wouldn't like it. Some audiologists will it'll be too uncomfortable to have a hard piece. They'll get soft pieces. There's all sorts of things that you can look for in the comfort of a hearing aid. I don't think there's body aids anymore. I don't know if anybody Are there
For kids,
for kids?
you wear them in a little
Okay.
pouch. Very infrequent.
Well, actually, I also heard that the ears grow for real toddlers. They can't fit it, and it'll just be too much in motion. Cochlear implants is, I'll talk in generalities because I don't know the total specifics. Electronic device to provide a sense of sound to a person who is profoundly deaf. My understanding is it removes the inner ear and you put in a cochlear implant, a cochlear device that mimics the little hairs in the cochlea. And I think the numbers are something like you have 100,000 little hairs in a healthy ear, and a cochlear implant will have about 1,000, or is it 100?
There's 24 electrodes,
24 electrodes?
and it'll give you a combination of sounds.
Okay, so the rainbow of sound reception is significantly restricted. However, through rehabilitation and training, your brain starts to hear. You have to learn how to hear all over again. So one of the most interesting things that I find about cochlear implants is that when people get them, like they have an operation, you have to prepare for that operation. It's a process. But it might take them 6, 12, 18 months to gain their hearing back. It's a process. Big life decision. It's something that you need to be approved for. And usually it's done with a team of the surgeon, an audiologist specialist, obviously yourself, and your family. Any questions on cochlear implants? Anything to add? Yes?
For someone who has like a progressive hearing loss, is there a threshold that you have to get to before you be considered for something like that?
So the question is, if you have a progressive hearing loss, should you be proactive and get a cochlear implant?
I mean, yeah, I guess that'd be a question, or is there a certain threshold of hearing loss that you have to get to before you be considered or approved?
Yeah, there's a threshold for sure. I think it's 80% loss, or is it 90%?
90 and below.
90 and above, which is upside down. Yeah, in my brain it's upside down. So you have to have a 90% loss of hearing.
How does that compare to the decibel scale?
It's
not
way at the
decibel
bottom.
scale. It's the word comprehension.
Okay.
It's very low, and actually a family member of mine asked me to be evaluated for cochlear, and I just said hello, and she knew right away that I was not a candidate.
Okay.
It's a big
It's really
decision.
targeted towards severe hearing loss.
I'm sorry,
It's really targeted towards a very severe hearing loss.
profoundly
Okay.
deaf or hard of hearing.
I would say you need to make an individual decision and not based on numbers. You're very fortunate in this area of the state. You're sitting right next to one of the major hearing cochlear implant centers in Worcester at UMass. Talk to your doctor, and it behooves you to have an assessment if you feel like your hearing aids are not providing you with the help they have in the past. One of the criteria is if your hearing aids no longer provide you with sufficient service.
Yeah.
That's one of the criteria. But UMass has an implant program.
Okay.
And just for the benefit of the people on this side of the room, she's saying that UMass has one of the best centers in the country.
No, I didn't say that. I said they have one of the centers.
Oh, I think it's one of the best, isn't it? I went there. No.
No, I have not, well.
Well, anyway, in Boston in general is considered, a medical center for the country. So, okay. Assistive listening systems, that's a big category. They're called different things. The technologies that are used, I'll show you, I know I'm walking in front of the screen. What I use is, I call it my streamer. It's a streamer. This is my bag of stuff that I have to bring with me. Anyway, I tend to wear this when I'm on the phone. It's a Bluetooth. It connects directly to my hearing aids. It hooks up with my cell phone, my iPod. I can hook up with the television, anything that is Bluetooth connected. There's also FM systems. As I said, this is an FM system right here.
Pick up.
I know, I don't want to mess with your ears.
Right.
And this is, it's funny when you go to a conference with all these hard of hearing people, because there'll be like an extra table with all these little devices sitting there. And it's a microphone. It acts like a microphone, and it's receiving signals and delivering it to the hearing aids. You can also find FM and Bluetooth and a couple of the others in public places such as Museum of Fine Arts, Museum of Science. It's coming very slowly, but it's coming nonetheless. Public places in the United States are farther behind than Europe in hearing assistive technology. But it's getting to the point where if you go to a museum, ask them if they have devices that you can use, okay?
Here in the Worcester area, Hanover Theater,
Hanover.
Mechanics Hall, those have FM systems.
Yep, Hanover
I don't know
Theater,
if they've looped yet.
we'll get to that. Hanover Theater, the Boston theaters, and Regal theaters, for the movie houses, have, I think they use infrared. I think it's infrared. Infrared is light. I don't know how it works, except I know that it's linear. So if you're sitting and looking at a movie, it's completely linear, and you wear the device, and it's emitting infrared sound to whatever device you're wearing. Regal, and I don't think they were the first one. What's the other big name?
AMC,
Say that again?
AMC.
AMC, I think they were the first ones. And now everybody's getting on board. And Sony, I think, is the manufacturer, the provider of most of the devices. But these, I think, are the three major transmissions. And you can see a little bit about how you can wear these devices. I was recently at Museum of Science, the IMAX theater, and you could wear glasses, and it was kind of comical. I wrote them because I advocate. I said, I don't think this is the best. Has anybody done that where you sit and they give you a mirror, and and you have this mirror, and you kind of line up the glasses and the images behind you backwards?
Your window captioning.
Yeah,
There's no windows in it, it's a
I don't
caption
think
system.
so.
Transmit it, and you're reading it like you would in closed captions on the television.
The people around me were very annoyed because I kept trying to put this thing so I could fit in. But it's coming, it's coming. All of these ways in public places are becoming more and more frequent, and if you ask for them, that's a way of advocating for them as well.
If you wear a device around your neck, is that something that the museum or the theater lets you borrow? Okay, then how does it communicate with your hearing aids?
Okay,
Is it
so
wireless?
the question is, if you're wearing something around your neck, what does the museum give you, and how does it connect to your hearing aids? There's several solutions to that. One is, if you wear no hearing aids at all, you can wear a device and wear headsets, so that the headset will get rid of all the school children around you and the bus loads of screaming fourth graders, and you can hear just the guide. When I wear a hearing aid, they'll give me the device, or I'll have the device, and if it's telecoil, all I have to do is just push the button and it comes in when it's looping. That's something else. I'll get to looping. But you can wear the device and hook it into headsets, or using looping, which I'm going to talk about next. You just push a button
On what?
on your hearing aid. And we can talk about that. That's coming up next. Yeah, the question is, do you need a special hearing aid for looping, which is the name of the technology? Let me get back to that. This slide happens to come first. I just want to talk about captioning. The difference between open caption and closed caption. Open is open. Anybody can read it. You don't need a special device. So if you go to the theater, they'll have an open captioned section where they'll have, like a marquee, and you can be reading it. Or sometimes they'll have it right in front of your chair. Has anybody done that? Okay. Closed caption means that you need the device that can project that. So television is closed captioning because a TV has to have that technology in it. That's the difference between open caption and closed caption. Okay, we'll talk about telephones for a minute and captioning. There are telephones available, and we actually have a representative from Caption Call today, where you have these in your home and you say hello, and the person that you're talking to, you can see what they're saying. You say, hello, how are you? And what they say is being captioned. It's actually being transmitted by another human being, which is wild to think about. I call my mother, we both have these captioned phones, and I say, Mom, let's talk about our drug deal, and no, you can't do that. But if you don't have one of these and think that you need one, I highly recommend them. They're landlines. They behave like landlines. They caption everything that you're hearing, okay, to a very high degree of success. One thing about cell phones or smartphones is I just tried a smartphone captioning from a company called Captel. It provides what the service I just described on your cell phone, and I had a very negative experience. It basically didn't work. I'm not going to give up yet, but I'm keeping my ears and eyes open for a solution. Okay, one more slide, and then I think we get to looping, is what happens in the community. In the old days, and like this, you have basic microphones, but it doesn't reduce background noise. Everybody has had problems with a mic'd room. You can't understand what the person's saying. There's a huge amount of distortion. CART, communications access real time. That's when somebody's typing, like the court stenographer. That's the best. It's very expensive. If we had CART here today, it would have cost probably $500 or $600. And I don't have the money, so sorry to say. But it's very, very effective. The third one I'm going to talk about, induction looping, okay? And notice here's the little symbol. This is the important symbol about induction looping. What's happening here is in hearing aids, there has been developed something called a T coil, standing for telephone coil. And it's electromagnetic based, and what it does is it blocks out all the sound around you and electromagnetically connects your hearing aid with your telephone. So it can be very, very effective. Talking on any telephone, you can hear it crystal clear. You don't hear anything around you if it works well. They've taken that technology and said we can create these sound waves in a room if we have a coil. And the coil is just like this. I mean, this actually has an induction coil in it. And you would have a coil like this, hundreds of feet long, and it would be snaked through the room, underneath the rug, or it would go around the periphery. And the coil itself would be connected to a device, a microphone. So the speaker and the conversation and the panel discussion is emitted throughout the room. And if you turn on your T-coil in your hearing aid, the sound is right there, like right there. And it's the wow moment. I had it about 1.5 years ago. I know other people who have had wow moments. They said, I don't know if I have a T-coil. How many people know they have one? Okay, good. And you use it, right? Some people have them and don't know they have it. If you can push buttons, there's a chance that you already have one. And most hearing aids, I think, if not all, I don't know if I can make that statement, now come with a T-coil. It must be programmed by your audiologist if you have it. Now remember the totally in the canal hearing aid that's really tiny? There's no room for a T-coil. So you have to weigh your vanity with the thing. But I mean, I just highly recommend, there's no reason not to get a T-coil. They're excellent. And you turn it on, and if you go into a room or a spot that has this, you'll just instantly be able to hear. And I've even seen some movie theaters with them too. But they tend to be in meeting rooms, classrooms, information booths. In Europe, I was fortunate enough to be in Berlin last summer, and you saw that symbol everywhere. You know how the information centers they're behind glass, and you can't, and you know, just nothing, but you click it on. So, do you know if you have do you wear a hearing aid now?
No.
Okay, so write that down. Get a T-coil. And if you can push buttons on your hearing aid, like I have 4 programs, I have a 5th program, my favorite, mute. It's my favorite. When I got my new hearing aid, she programmed it all up, and I said, where's the mute button? It was the first thing I missed. But anyway, if you don't know if you have a T-coil, ask your audiologist. So what's happening? This is getting out there slowly but surely. There's initiatives statewide. I think Wisconsin, like Get Wisconsin Looped, Florida, New Mexico. I think there's some states that are really leading the country, and it's a movement, if you will. And once you get T-coil in place, it's done. So there's not this ongoing getting a court stenographer to use CART. It can be very cost effective once the initial investment is made. And here, through a generous donation from Harold and Marcia Rhodes, they're people in town here in Milford, we have our very first looping location in Milford, which is at the information booth, or in the reception area in the senior center. And it literally just got in about 2 weeks ago. I have to make a sign. I have to do some cheat sheets for the volunteer staff. But the idea is soon that symbol will be there, and click it on and you can hear everything that the person says. Okay, I'm just going to go back there just to make sure, because now I'm going to move away from looping. But I really think it's important, and I just want to make sure if anybody has any questions. Okay. So I'm going to go into personal safety devices. I mention this because there's in the home and there's on the road, in hotel rooms. We as a society spend a lot of time and effort on smoke alarms, fire alarms, and so forth. And if you can't hear those alarms, they're not going to do anybody any good. I don't hear alarms. My most personal favorite safety device, as I brought it, is this is my alarm clock. And see if I can just, okay, so this thing is jumping like and it has a little clip, and I clip it to my nightshirt, and this wakes me up when I'm on the road in a hotel room, and I travel a lot in my work. I cannot hear the alarm clock. I cannot hear a wake-up call. I cannot hear a knock on the door. All right? So this is, and one time, I'll tell you, this is an anecdote. My luggage made it to Boston, but I didn't. I was stuck in a hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my plane was at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get up, and I didn't know what to do, and my gracious husband said, okay, wear a hearing aid to bed, keep your cell phone on. I had my Bluetooth right next to me, and he called me at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the telephone rang right here. So he had to do that because there's no way I could wake up. So that's one thing. But the other thing is fire safety, carbon monoxide safety, even weather alerts. I sort of downplay that, but in my mind. But if people are listening to the radio and you can't hear it, that doesn't do you any good. So there's a lot of stuff out there on the market that's inexpensive, and if you need anything, I have some catalogs here from reputable manufacturers, and they're usually pretty inexpensive.
Are these things for when you don't have your hearing aids in?
It's 24/7, whether or not your hearing aids are in or not, because if it's at things are at a frequency that your ears struggle to hear, even though you're wearing a hearing aid, you still might struggle to hear it. Also, it's no fun sleeping with hearing aids in because they feed back, and it's just not fun. A lot of the alarms that you can get are visual, so, well, or vibrating, or both. But if the strobe lights, say, for fire. And a way that I advocate, again, is whenever I go to a hotel room, I ask for the hearing kit. And then I get a TTY, the typewriter thing, and I'm saying, I don't need that, really. I just need the alarm, and they have sensors where you knock on the door, that strobe lights go. And sometimes they're even connected to the internal fire system. Okay, that's an ADA thing. That's Americans with Disability Act compliancy. Okay, questions?
Do you have names of manufacturers to get those?
Yeah, I have some catalogs here. When we take a break, I'll, and actually I should kind of keep moving because I'm probably taking too long. I mentioned the Milford Commission on Disability. I'm now a member. They hear any concerns that you have about getting around, not just hearing, but wheelchair accessibility and handicapped parking lots and so forth. The local chapter is right there. That's our website. And actually we have a meeting coming up on March 29th, Northborough. It's going to be about the ADA and hearing loss within the workplace. I'll talk more about that, or I'll have handouts maybe later. And we have these blue cards about our local chapter. We have great people working in it. Another resource that Milford has, I don't know if you're aware of, is called Smart 911. People hear about that? You go to smart911.com and you register yourself. And you say who you are, where you live, what special needs you have. If there's anything that you want any emergency people to know about you, then you enter that information and it's confidential. And then when your phone calls 911, your profile appears. So it doesn't have to be for hearing, if it could be for any other disability or a member of the family who needs special needs, if they're blind, if they have medication that they need to be nearby, if they're on oxygen, whatever an emergency person needs to know. And actually, everybody has cell phones these days, pretty much. If you're in California and call 911 and your telephone number has been registered, your profile is still going to come up. So that's a really good feature.
Smart911.com.
Yep. Oh, sorry, yeah, smart911.com. Milford was the first one in the state to get it. And then the Hearing Loss Association of America. And I'll put in a personal plug. We have our fundraiser, so everybody can sign up to give a pledge or to walk. Have sheets of there. And I just say, can we all relate? It's not just if you're wearing a hearing aid. There's hearing loss and difficult hearing situations throughout our society. We're a noisy society. And I find that irritating, but it's the fact. Okay, conclusion. Admire the problem. Get it, get assessed. Be honest. Have a sense of humor. Use technology, use resources, and know that you're not alone. Okay? So any questions, comments? What we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute break at most, and then let's figure out a best way for people who stay who may have a circle. We could just return to our seats and maybe share some ideas. Okay?